I mean, I look back like best 2 years of my life were at LSU, and just had so much fun and football games, camaraderie, it's a lot different for sure, but it's a good time.
Welcome back to another episode of In the Dirt. I'm Alex Milazzo.
And I'm Hayden Travinsky.
And today we have a very special guest that many of you are going to know.
Kevin Gosman, thanks for having me on, guys.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you, man. We really appreciate you taking time out your day to come on to this show. But yeah, let's get right into it. So I actually got the chance to meet Kevin my freshman year. That was during COVID.
That's right.
So obviously everything shut down, and I think Coach Maneri called me, and Will Harris reached out and said y'all needed catchers when y'all got back home to keep y'all's arms going, because y'all had no idea when y'all were going to go back to baseball. And Coach called me and said, yeah, Will's going to reach out. And he texted me. He was like, yeah, meet me at the U Club. I was like, oh, dang, all right. So little did I know, I ended up showing up to the U Club, and I was catching you, Will Harris, I think Verdugo was throwing, and maybe one or two other guys. And we were doing bullpens in Kevin's backyard during COVID, so that was a really cool opportunity.
Yeah, we were grinding. I mean, you were grinding more than we were for sure. Yeah, but I mean, we had a mound set up, and yeah, like you said, it was during COVID, so everything was shut down. Didn't really know when we were going to go back to camp, but trying to stay as ready as we could, and kind of worked out good for you because you were a freshman. So, whereas you maybe not be getting those reps, unfortunately, you were getting them in the Louisiana hot sun in June. So, I mean, you were sweating, you were working. Like we were throwing balls in the dirt, and as I said at the first pitch banquet, there's a lot of baseballs in a pond out there somewhere. But we appreciate that for sure. But I think it was good for you too also, And
Oh, yeah.
Obviously seeing you around here all the time too has definitely helped.
Yeah, it was a big learning experience for me, just getting to kind of pick y'all's brains over, that course of time that summer. I had the opportunity to learn a lot, just picking your brain, picking Will Harris's brain, the difference between college and pro guys, and that helped me a lot. And
that's a good group to learn from. You mentioned the COVID thing. What was the experience like dealing with the uncertainty? Because I know for us, it was just season canceled immediately. For you guys, it was, we're going to tell you on short notice, be ready for months and months and months. So what was that like? Because it was way different for us than you. Yeah,
I mean, it was crazy, especially, I was with the Giants at the time, and, we were in spring training and when COVID happened, and so drove from Arizona all the way back here, left at like 9 at night with my daughter. I only had one at the time, and she slept the whole drive until we got to like Houston or something. So, that was great. But yeah, the uncertainty was crazy, just to know that when we do start up, we don't know how long we're going to have to get ready for the actual season. Like, is the season going to be 40 games? Is it going to be 60? Like, they were still kind of trying to work out everything. And with all the COVID protocols, especially being in San Francisco, when we did go back, the amount of testing that, and credit to the Giants organization, because they did a great job of keeping everybody healthy for the most part. But, when you have guys living in a big city, like, things are going to happen. But it was COVID checks every single day, multiple times a day, lots of eating out of plastic Tupperware. And, they had to kind of change the layout of all the clubhouses. Nobody could be right next to each other. We were supposed to wear these things that monitored if we were too close to someone. And, it was crazy. But when you have a 60-game season and you have the chance to, possibly say you're world champions, even though it is 60 games, those 60 games are super important. So try to do everything to make sure everybody was healthy. But it was a crazy time for sure. And there's going to be, documentaries about it at some point of COVID in sports because it was crazy.
It felt like we were living in a movie during that time. Like, it wasn't real.
It still doesn't feel. It just feels like a blip in time.
Yeah, how weird was it playing in empty stadiums with just cardboard cutouts? And
like
you can hear everything.
Did it bring you back to your inter squad days of just grinding it out here in the fall?
Well, no, because even the inter squad is that's the luxury of being at LSU, right? You're always playing in front of somebody.
That's true.
But yeah, it was weird. It was kind of crazy for me because I actually had pitched in a game with no fans before in the big leagues. So when I was with Baltimore, there was riots that happened. We played in front of no fans against the Chicago White Sox. And I pitched one inning in that game, and it was crazy because this was before we ever thought we wouldn't play in front of anyone, especially in a big league stadium. Like, big league stadiums are huge. Yeah. There's no ushers. There's nobody. So you're hearing the umpires talk to each other. You're hearing a lot of stuff that you don't normally hear.
I feel like that would incite more drama because then you can hear the chirps.
Oh, yeah.
You can hear everything.
There was a lot of chirping going on. But everybody, we would get double fined if we went on the field because we'd be getting in close contact with other people. So nobody was 60 games, everybody's trying to get their paycheck, you only got 60 games. So nobody was trying to mess up for sure.
Well, going back, so obviously we talked about the COVID, but taking you back to your college days, I had the chance growing up here to watch you pitch here, which was awesome, and just had the opportunity to make a lot of games being so close. And I remember a big thing when you were pitching here was your superstitions, and one of them was eating the 4 powdered donuts, I think, in between innings.
It was 3, but yeah.
Three powdered donuts, and then you also had a sock deal. Can you talk a little bit about that and kind of what was behind your mind and doing those things, and what have you kept with you going forward?
I guess I can understand the powdered donut one, but the sock one, when I heard that, I was just so confused.
Yeah, the sock one's weird. I really, it's just so ingrained now that I do it without even thinking. But yeah, I've always been super superstitious. I jump over the line every time I go on or off the field. Never going to step on the line. You'll never see that happen. And so just all those little things that over the years now, I've been doing this for, 12 years in the big leagues now. So it's second nature. Start day, this is what I'm doing. I know, 3 hours out what I start doing until the game starts, But yeah, back then, I think I was 9 or 10, and I was pitching in a game, and I didn't eat anything before the game. So I told my mom to pick me up something on the way. And my mom picked up powdered donuts, which is kind of crazy to think, what is she thinking, what are you doing, Mom? But she picked up powdered donuts, and I pitched the best game of my life up to that point that day, eating powdered donuts in between innings. And then it just kind of stuck, and I did it through high school, I did it through college, and I got into pro ball my first year, and Brady Anderson, who was high up in the Orioles organization at the time, was big health guy. He was you can't do this. This is not sustainable, and so I kind of stopped it. I don't do it anymore, obviously.
I was about to say Hostess could throw you a check for that.
Yeah, well, yeah, I've got some free merch from Hostess over the years for sure, because it always comes up. Yeah, but when I made my debut, I actually debuted in Toronto, and they don't have Hostess in Canada. So one of our outfielders, Adam Jones, at the time, went and got Tasty Cakes, which is a big brand up in Canada, and filled my entire locker from head to toe with powdered donuts, Tasty Cakes, powdered donuts. And so that was kind of a cool thing because he had actually done it in spring training my first day too, obviously with Hostess because we were down in Florida. But that was a cool day, walk in, see all these donuts, know that I'm pitching that day, and kind of a cool thing to look back at now. But
I found that pitchers, just me catching a lot of pitchers over the years, I found pitchers are more superstitious than anybody else. Certain cleats, certain pants, whatever, undershirt, stuff like that. I know Hayden's got a superstition. He eats a cheeseburger before every game
Cheeseburger
and in between innings.
I don't know where you got that.
in between innings.
A whole burger. So you mentioned the Hostess Donuts. That tradition stopped, but you said the sock thing has become second nature, just a habit as you've gone along your career. But what other routines have you stuck to? Like, does it change day to day? Is there days where obviously you don't have as much time? You got to shorten your routine. How does that work for you in your preparation?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't say every start's different, but you go on kind of how you feel. Obviously, I have things that I do every time, every day. My time that I start my preparation, is always an hour and a half pregame. An hour and 35 minutes pregame, and then I kind of backtrack from there. And I know within 10 minutes, like, what I got to be doing. I account for getting stretched in the training room and account for all these different things. And want to start throwing 25 minutes before game time. A different thing with Toronto is we have 2 anthems, so it just takes up a little bit more time. So you got to account for that. And sometimes those anthems take a long time. So sometimes you're sitting there for 5-6 minutes, that you didn't account for. So, it's like anything, the more prepared you are for things that you might not expect, they're not going to throw you off as much, And each time you pitch in the postseason for the first time, you realize that that's just a little bit different, especially if you're starting the game. There's just so much going on pregame. There's people on the field. The flag takes up the whole field now, so all these different things that the game times in the postseason are really different than the regular season. You usually have, 5-6 times during the regular season, and it doesn't change. And in the postseason, they have games at 4:13 p.m., and just weird times. And it's all about TV, so your breaks in between innings are longer. So you just kind of got to know those things going in, and the first time that you get there and kind of do it, you're more prepared for it the next time. You can see it a lot with young guys. They get in the postseason for the first time, and the cameras kind of, all of a sudden, you're used to playing in front of big crowds, but the crowds are different in the postseason. They're making an announcement before the game, like, hey, we're about to go live on TBS to the whole world, like, go crazy. And then everybody in the stands goes nuts. So it's just a little bit different. People are obviously more invested in the game, which is crazy because we played 162 up to that point. So it's like sometimes it can kind of be a little bit of a shell shock that can happen. But, you're always changing on how you feel, like post-start, you're always changing based on how your body feels, what it's telling you, like how much time off you need to take. Maybe I shouldn't throw today. Maybe I should throw a lighter pin in between this turn. Like, you're always kind of nitpicking things, but you definitely have certain things that you do every 5 days, every 3 days,
When you throw, every pitcher's different, I feel like, and we get the chance to see it, especially coming off the field, trying to make adjustments with pitchers in between innings. Are you a guy that is super locked in, super focused, as in like some pitchers can be rude about it, like leave me the hell alone, which is fine. Do what you got to do. Are you? Where do you fall in that?
I'd say I'm definitely the most intense when I'm pitching, but I'm not gonna be a jerk to my catcher ever.
Yeah.
Like that's just not me. But I've definitely seen some guys like you just don't talk to.
Yeah, you can't.
Some guys, even their whole start day, like you don't even look at them. Like, don't look at them, or else, like, you might hear about it the next day. And so you kind of know those guys going in. But that's what changes when you get to pro ball, is you start dealing with a lot of guys from all over the world.
That actually rolls really well into the next part. As you go through the ranks, the relationship between pitcher and catcher becomes more influential and more important for you. How does that, from college to pro ball to the big leagues, how does that kind of evolve?
Yeah, I mean, in the minor leagues, you're going to deal with a lot of different catchers. Like I said, you're also on the other side. You're going to have catchers that don't speak the same language as you. So, you kind of got to be able to explain, like, hey, this is where I like you to set up. And sometimes you literally have to get down in your stance and tell them kind of like, hey, when I'm throwing a breaking ball 0-2, like, be in the other batter's box, you know. But if they don't speak the language, they're not going to understand. So you kind of have to explain it a little bit. So, yeah, and that definitely changes. But it's cool. I mean, I was lucky enough. My catcher that caught my first Double-A start caught me a lot in the big leagues. And so we kind of came up together. That was Caleb Joseph. And so, you know, we became really good friends. And that relationship of knowing that someone's, you know,
similar face.
Yeah, and like, you know, in your trench with you, like, wants you to do well. The biggest difference is probably just dealing with people from all over the world, as opposed to, you know, at LSU, you pretty much have everybody here, you know, speaks the same language as you, is around your same age too, so you can, you know, you guys are going through the same phase of your life. Whereas you get to the big leagues, you know, I remember getting to the big leagues my first week, asking guys like, hey, you want to go to dinner? And they're like, I got to go home to my wife and kids, you know. And that was crazy to me and at the time, and now that's me, you know. And so it's funny, but you don't think about those things then, but, you know, now looking back, for sure, definitely that's an element that you don't think about.
Yeah, making that transition from a place like LSU and then going to the minors and then obviously having the career you've had, how has your time here in front of our fans, you know, like you said, dealing with TV breaks, a lot of guys probably haven't dealt with that until they got to the big leagues. You got to experience that here. How was your time just in general from this program to your transition? How did this program help prepare you for what you were getting yourself into?
Oh, man, it prepared me so much, not just for baseball, but life in general. I think I tell everybody, like, you got to go to college, you know, unless you're just so polished and you just want to start your career, which I understand there's a lot of guys who want to do that. But if you have any question about should I go to college, like, go to college, because it's going to make you're going to get better at what your craft is. You know, you're going to do, if you're a catcher, you're going to do more catching stuff than you've ever done in your life, and you're going to get a lot better. If you have a weakness on the hitting side, like, you're going to work on that weakness, and that, you know, you're not just going to work on your strengths, which you pretty much do when you're in high school. But at the next level, you got to be able to do more than just one tool. You got to be able to have multiple tools as a position player. As a pitcher, you have to have multiple pitches. And so, but I mean, my time here, I think the biggest thing for me was the reason I came here was, you know, if my goal was to pitch in front of 40,000 eventually, which is, you know, every kid's dream, you know, our goal as kids, like, we don't necessarily think about playing at college. We think about, like, Game 7 of the World Series, you know, like, that's what we're thinking about in the backyard, like, in all realities, right? But I always thought coming to the school that had the most fans in the country was definitely going to prepare me more for that next big jump of going from, you know, playing in front of 15,000 here to, you know, 25 and then 30 and 40 sometimes in the big leagues. And so I think if you know, and then in the minor leagues, there's just not that many fans in the minor leagues compared to the big leagues. So, I mean, my first pro start, like, they asked me how nervous I was after. I was like, there's nobody here. Like, the last game I pitched before this was at LSU, and there was, you know, 14,000. People were losing their mind. So, like, I was pretty calm, you know, I was pretty collected, like, whereas here, obviously, like, the atmosphere is amazing, and especially, you know, a super regional, which that was, it was crazy. But those things definitely prepared me more for kind of being in the limelight, and, yeah, like you said, the media aspect too. You know, I had media training when I was here at LSU. That at the time, you know, I didn't realize how big it was going to be for me. And now looking back, I realize how great that was that they did that for everybody to just kind of get them more prepared for when someone puts a camera or a mic in your face.
Yeah, I definitely think this place is like no other when it comes to, I don't want to say a stepping stone, but like the next step in your career or any young guy's career, like there's no other place like this in the country that can prepare you for those next steps in your life. But also I wanted to ask you about your decision to stay here in Louisiana, even though, you're with the Blue Jays in Toronto. Just what kind of went into your decision and your family's decision? Obviously, that's a big piece in your life, but what made y'all's decision to stay here?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, my first off season, I was always coming back. I just started dating a girl from Lake Charles that was at LSU, and I was coming back every weekend, I felt like, to either come for a football game or, to see her. And so it was kind of just, it just kind of made sense. They had just built the weight room here, and so we could finally kind of train here. And so, it just kind of made more sense for me. I wanted to do more outside. Where I grew up, Denver, like, can't really do much in the off season. So once I started playing golf too, I was like, all right, it's 80 degrees in December. You don't get that where I grew up. So, but yeah, I mean, the biggest part is my family. My wife being from Lake Charles, wanting to be home, close to her parents, close to her family. So, we see a lot of people who come back from LSU. That's the cool thing about being part of a university is, even if you had friends who came to LSU from Texas or Mississippi or Florida, they always come back at some point, whether for a football game or, an event that LSU has going on. So that's always cool to see old teammates, old, college friends. But, yeah, it's just it just kind of made more sense for me to be here than it did back home.
Yeah, that's been the coolest part is watching guys that came through this program and, whether they had a short career or long career, it seems like most everybody ends up coming back to Baton Rouge and starting their, job career here and establishing Baton Rouge as their home, which is, I think that says a lot about this place.
Yeah, I think it says a lot about the university too, overall. You meet a lot of people when you're here, and so, yeah, when you're done, I haven't found out yet, but when I'm done playing, I'm for sure going to use those relationships a lot more.
I just can't. In my head, I've been thinking, what was AD's reaction to the donuts? It's just been sticking with me, and I just can't.
Well, yeah, AD didn't like it too much. He always kind of would look down towards the end of the dugout and kind of give me a weird look. But that was his first year here, so he was still kind of like, feeling out what he could tell guys and what he couldn't. But yeah, I think if I would have came back for my my junior year, I think he would have been like, all right, let's get rid of this. Yeah. Like, what are we doing?
Obviously, as a veteran player in yourself and being around the game for so long, would you have any advice for, guys like me and Hayden going into our last year here at LSU and, yeah, I guess a little bit of wisdom you can share.
I mean, I would just say have as much fun as you possibly can, because if you do start this as a career, it's great. It's a dream come true, obviously, but it's a lot different than playing here. This is really the last time where you're playing with a room full of friends. People that, like I said, are going through the same life phase as you. You can kind of relate to them a lot more. You go through the grind of, Omaha Challenge and all the cool things that you do in the fall together. And so it's a unique bond that you're going to have with these guys. I'm a lot closer even now than with my college teammates. Than, those are some of my best friends still. So you go through things here as a group that, and I wasn't here for a national championship, so I'm sure it's even more so for you guys. The memories that you're going to share with these guys. So I would just say cherish the time that you have left, and you guys understand how awesome it is to be here. So just kind of relish in that, and understand that it's a unique opportunity, and so just have as much fun with it as you can and go out and play and, leave it all out there.
Who did you room with while you were here? I'm assuming you roomed with teammates.
Yeah.
Who was it?
My freshman year was Ty Ross, Nick Rumbelow, and myself. And then my sophomore year it was Jacoby Jones and Rafe Rhymes.
Oh, okay, that's a good group.
Yeah, all great people. So yeah, it was awesome. And I mean, I look back like best 2 years of my life were at LSU. You know, and just had so much fun and football games, camaraderie. Like it's a lot different for sure. But it's a good time.
We'd like to thank our very special guest, Kevin Gausman, today for joining the show. Me and I want to wish you the best of luck this upcoming season. And, yeah, we couldn't be happier to have you.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me. You guys, too. Go get them. Go back to back.
Go Tigers.
Tigers.
Go Tigers.